Greetings, dudes. It is I am the one and only Mighty the Armadillo here.
And I'm Ray, the Flying Squirrel here. We are back for yet again for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos once again.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Mario Slam Basketball, aka Mario Hoops 3-on-3 in America, and Mario Basketball 3-on-3 in a Japanese version of the game for the Nintendo DS.
Yeah, so yesterday we actually did manage to tackle through the second tourney of the game, which appears to be the Flower Tourney, which overall is actually pretty decent so far. The only time exception being is Daisy Garden, because I'm not a big fan of the main mechanic, where you have to able to keep on tossing the basketball right at Pity Piranha, which I found is a little bit luck-based at times. But anyways, let's get into the forms of today's video, and that we're going to be taking on, in my opinion, it's one of the hardest cups in the game, or hardest tourneys in the game. That's what appears to be the Star Tourney, which we'll point out whenever we dive right into this particular tourney. So, yeah, anyway though, let's just go and get started right here. So, we figure we're also able to go ahead and select the rest of the Kong members of family, or should I say, the Donkey Kong Country inspired characters for this point today. Because after all, since we've already unlocked Dixie Kong ever since in yesterday's video, so we figure we're also able to send out not only Donkey Kong, but also Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong. In some cases though, it feels kind of similar to the likes of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze almost. Even though, except the fact that there's no Cranky Kong to be found in this game. So, yeah, we figure we can do that.
And the first match we face off against is Luigi, Fly Guy, and Wario. And we're going to be hit on to the first court in this particular tourney. That's what appears to be by the forms of, well, Wario Factory.
And apparently we ended up in some sort of like in the elevator kind of scenarios like this. But either way though, let's get this thing to it in the Star Tourney. And this is where the game starts to get a bit difficult at this point in time. Especially considering how the fact that those CPU players, or computer players rather, starts to act out a lot more aggressively this time around. Meaning about the fact that they can sometimes manage to avoid you at certain points. And in addition to that though, they somehow manage able to be really good at the forms of certain, certain stuff as far as I'm aware. So anyways though, a few things I want to explain for this particular points today. That is the fact that, well, today's day is of course the 9th of January today, in this case in 2023 today. Well, I'll explain more details about the forms of certain details and so for later. But as you can see, in Wario Factory right here, the main mechanic of this particular court is the fact that there are tons of bob-bombs walking around all over the place in this court. And in order to use the bob-bombs, well, exponentially, if you don't have the ball with you, basically though is the fact that if you try to tap the touchscreen at the bob-bomb or something like that, you can able to actually carry it, and then you can simply just able to actually toss it into any other opponent, assuming if they do have a ball with them. So in some cases though, it's think of like the regular bombs as the item, but except the fact that, well, it actually contains a lot more explosive, a biggest range for that explosion. So that basically summarized for this particular stage. Whilst unlike any forms of the follow-up to this, which is the forms of, well, you know what I mean, in Mario Sports Mix version of Wario Factory, that does manage to contain the conveyor belts and stuff like that, whilst in this though, it's pretty much a standard court, aside from just bob-bombs just managed able to repeat your progress. So, but anywho, so yeah, something's worth mentioning though, in terms of the forms of today's discussion though, that first of all, we just want to point things out is the fact that we did somehow recently pre-ordered not only SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake on the PlayStation 4 version most likely, but also we somehow managed able to pre-order Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch. So in some cases though, I'm really looking forward to able to playing those two games in the beginning of this year so far. Well, mind you, we still need to wait for a certain amount of days for, just get our hands on the forms of not only the newest SpongeBob game ever made, but also just revisiting the Wii classic game, but this time around though brought back into the Nintendo Switch, so that way we can able to play the game on the go, and on top of all that stuff though, just experience that fun Kirby game again, especially considering about the fact that the original version came out almost like 12 years ago roughly, so in some cases though, yeah, that's all I can say about it. And on top of all that stuff though, I've heard there's quite a few leaks out there at the moment, but I mean, let's face it though, we're probably going to be able to ignore leaks and rumors right now just because we still don't usually trust them anymore. Well, relatively speaking though, because at the very least though, on our own time, we can simply decide able to play Sonic Frontiers on our own time, specifically the Xbox One version most likely, so we can potentially try able to ignore certain leaks and rumors and stuff, but you probably get the gist of it, so...
And also something's worth noting for is that the reason why we selected Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, and Dixie Kong in this particular Star Tourney Cup, because obviously about the fact that we still continue things on in the forms of Donkey Kong 64, that way we can able to actually pretty much get the gist of it, so... Yeah, speaking of Donkey Kong 64 though, is the fact that so far, that I believe Maxi has actually gotten into that a lot of progressioning for Donkey Kong 64. Like for instance, he's pretty much in the second world right now, but I'm sure that he will discuss more details about that, and during at some point he will return back into Donkey Kong 64 until tomorrow anyway. So relatively speaking though, because relatively speaking, Donkey Kong 64 is gonna be one of the longest Let's Plays we can probably tackle through. Just because, as what he said this before, that there are tons of collectibles in Donkey Kong 64. But relatively speaking though, best of luck for him anyway, especially he does really need it, especially considering about the fact that, well, relatively speaking... Oh jeez, I did not notice that.
Yeah, sometimes about the fact that sometimes controls can be a bit cumbersome to able to go by for, you know what I mean, when you're trying to able to actually duck the basket or something like that, but most of the time, if I was trying to able to get in there, oh yeah, every once in a while is the fact that certain computer players will like to stop you for able to actually dunk the ball into the actual basket itself, because relatively speaking though, if you think you're about to be able to actually get a lot of points thanks to the forms of those coins you be collected. But at the same time though, the computer players keep on stopping you for doing so. It makes things a lot more challenging and aggressive at points, especially considering about the fact that this is what I mean about the fact that, well, out of all the actual cups in this game, that what Sonic did actually told me, that this is the only cup that he got stuck on for the longest time, mainly because of one specific stage coming up. Well, you'll see why in just a moment, so, oh, son of a biscuit, that fly guy just somehow managed able to get the Starman, and I'm actually a little bit nerve-wracked for, the points cap at the moment, but either way though, we still need to hopefully try to aim for, you know, the gold trophy as much as we can, so that way we can able to actually get some ton of unlockables here and there. But either way though, relatively speaking though, I think that's as far as I can try to explain about the forms of certain stuff throughout, so... Actually, I just want to point things out as well, is the fact that for this year in particular, for 2023, that recently about the fact that Warner Brothers is actually getting itself its 100th anniversary this year, which is pretty cool and interesting at the same time, because relatively speaking though, yeah, I did somehow manage able to correct myself this time around though, because it did say Warner Brothers instead of the forms of whatever that particular word I did say from last year, so even then though, that's as far as I can think about it, and yeah, I cannot wait to see how Warner Brothers is actually getting its, I don't know, the special presentation or something like that for its 100th anniversary of that particular film company. Because last year we did have Disney 100th anniversary of the actual Disney company and stuff like that. I'm assuming so anyway.
So anyways, now it's going to move on to the next round, and that's what we'll face off against with Bowser Jr. as alongside with Princess Peach and Yoshi in this very cool stage right here, which appears to be Junior Street, which as far as I'm aware, is basically like a city-themed level, and also has a lot of emphasis on gambling stuff, meaning about the fact that we actually got some slot machines, so... Yeah, but either way though, and as you can see on screen, as you probably already know, that we once again managed able to change the actual different cosmetic ball design, which this time around though, we actually got ourselves a Yoshi's Egg design. So relatively speaking, we can potentially try to able to actually just to like, you know, show some different variety when it comes to like colors, shapings, and you probably name the rest of that kind of stuff.
So anyways, the main gimmick of this level, as you can see, and as far as I mentioned this briefly, is those slot machines. And as you can see, that we actually got ourselves 6 lights have been lit up within like 3 from each side. And because of this though, the main gimmick of this level is the slot machines. And then if you somehow manage able to obtain the purple coin, and basically you can able to use that if you like every time when you score the basket and stuff like that. And basically though is the fact that the slot machine will activate at certain form or another, and then exponentially, the only way you can able to get purple coins is if you have a basketball at all times. And because of that though, that actually signifies the actual light decides to lit up. So relatively speaking though, is the fact that the slot machine, that if you do manage able to like, you know, think of like the forms of how it does it in most Sonic the Hedgehog casino themed levels, like Casino Night Zone from Sonic 2 and Casino Park from Sonic Heroes, and you name the rest. That basically, oh, and also Casinoopolis level from Sonic Adventure, where basically is the fact that in order to able to get tons of points in this particular stage sometimes, you have to get 3 of the same kind. Like, for instance, if you manage able to get like 3 Marios in a row, I believe your score will actually triples up. So in some cases though, sometimes it can be luck based though, because usually as you can see on screen, we haven't got that much points thanks to that slot machine. And on top of all that stuff though, there's actually technically another unlockable in this particular game, but it does require you to get the ridiculous amount of points if you get lucky. So in some cases though, I think you have to get about 800 points on this particular stage alone. So in some cases though, it can take a very long time to able to actually just get to that point. But either way though, I'm sure we'll show off some of these extra stuff until for later, once we finish up with the rest of the Tourney mode itself. But either way though, sometimes it can take a very long time to able to actually just to get the hang of this though, especially with all that control scheme in mind. So, but I digress. Anyway, the next thing I want to mention is the fact that, well, relatively speaking, as far as I do manage to find out, that the majority of the forms of the Pokemon anime series, that what I've noticed is the fact that I believe, when it comes to the forms of those different series in mind, that I believe, looking back in it right now, before we move on to Generation 9 anime, although Ash Ketchum is not going to be on Generation 9 animate stuff anymore, so it's kind of sucks and sad at the same time. I mean, I get it because of the plot convenience, but as a result, that's what I've looked back on it though, from these different Pokemon animate series, that Generation 1 somehow contains like 2 series as far as I'm aware, and Generation 2 somehow managed to get 3 series. And I believe Generation 3 does have 4 series of Pokemon animate stuff like this. Like, for instance, I think, relatively speaking though, that's, well, I don't know about you, because it's been a very long while since I actually last known about the forms of Pokemon anime stuff, so... And as far as Diamond and Pearl series is concerned, I believe it does have 4 series, as far as I'm aware, just like Generation 3. And Generation 5 does have 3 series. And Generation 6 also has 3 series as well. And so applies to Generation 7 and finally Generation 8. So in some cases though, it looks like the majority of those series always seems to have 3 series. Although the most we got out of them though, for those different generations to come, that Generation 3 and 4 has the majority of those series as far as I'm aware. So yeah, despite the fact that we somehow managed to able to haven't watched any of those, well, we do remember that one particular series we are usually fond of back in the day, which appears to be buddy forms of Galactic Battles from the likes of Diamond and Pearl most likely, or Rivals Destiny, or Destinies from the likes of the forms of Generation 5 or something. Yeah, I can assure to that, because I'm pretty sure that Sonic did actually told us, back in the day that is, during the forms of about a decade ago. Because I'm pretty sure he did tell us about the forms of one of those special episodes that contains Metal Weller from the likes of in the Black and White series, I'm presuming so anyway. Or may be wrong, but either way though, that might be some consumption, so... But I digress. So in terms of getting those purple coins, if you really want to lit up everything on the slot machines, I think you do need to get about 5 purple coins in order able to actually activate every single portions of that slot machines between these little light walls and stuff. And everything else goes all like, you know, self-explanatory stuff. Oh, don't tell me, yep, they scored the goal. Or score the basket, whatever you want to call it. I know for a fact that's not football. Oh, you lucky! This means they got triple amount of points, so 144. Jeez Louise. Anyway, the next thing I want to mention though is the fact that, relatively speaking, do you guys even remember that Tara Strong, she's also going to be working on one of those voices of one of those characters in the future? That I'm referring to as, there was actually this new ND animated series called Box Town, and basically one of those characters is actually named Bill, and he's going to be voiced by Tara Strong, which is roughly the same voice actor as in not only, I would say Ben 10 from the classic Ben 10 series, I'm presuming so, but also with the forms of course, Bubbles from the likes of the Powerpuff Girls, the original series, and most famously is, of course, Twilight Sparkle from the likes of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. So, pretty cool, I might add. And I think that particular series is about to be releasing at some point in fall this year. So, either way though, that might be saying something, so... Alright, here we go, onto the finals in the Star Tourney, and this is the stage you on about, right? Yep. Here we are, onto Bowser Castle, although it's, in my opinion, is one of the worst levels in the game, just because it's a bit frustrating to able to play this stage most of the time. Especially, well, let's get into the forms of another topic before I'm able to actually give my massive rant of this particular stage. Another thing I just want to point out is that there's a game called Final Fantasy 16 that's going to be exclusive onto the PlayStation 5. That not only does it get ourselves a release date, and I think it's going to be expecting to be released until the 22nd of June for this year, and on top of that is the fact that the pricing of that game on Amazon most likely is ridiculously expensive right now, especially on the PlayStation 5 exclusive, I'm presuming so, and basically though is the fact that it costs about 70 quid at the moment right now, and 100 quid for the likes of the deluxe edition as well, so it's outrageous, you know. And what's also outrageous though is the fact that they bumped up the actual aging rating system for Final Fantasy 16, which as a result is now going to be PEGI 18 apparently, or I may be wrong about that part, but either way though, let me know in the comments down below if I'm correct or not, but either way that might be saying something, so... And of course, the actual, the opponents we face off against in this particular finals in Star Tourney, which we have not only Waluigi, but also Paratrooper and Bowser, which, get it, because we play in Bowser Castle, and we face off against with Bowser, so it makes sense. No, it's not what I have in mind. Oh, that's gonna screw us up. Anyway, so, yeah, let's get into the forms of why I despise this stage so much. The reason being for this is because this stage is too chaotic. And on top of all that stuff, though, there's a lot of lava pads all over the place. And on top of that, if you get hit by not only Plottaboo fireballs, but also say applies with the forms of those weird fireball creatures, that basically, if you dare touch it, basically, you cannot able to actually grab the ball because you catch on fire. And because of this though, it's way too annoyingly inconsistent if you dare manage able to touch by the fire or lava or whatever you want to be more specific. And not only that though, is the fact that there are tons of those question mark panels all over the court. And the annoying aspect about this stage for me though, is the fact that there are a lot of random luck-based elements on the stage, meaning there's going to be flops like this one. And because of that though, you easily gonna get flattened. Well, luckily you can switch between these different characters on the fly, so at least that's something. But the bad thing about this is though, it's just too chaotic. And on top of that, the computer players are actually really dang good at this stage, especially considering how the fact that they always know what's going to be happening. And on top of that, as much as about the fact that this is the only stage we are truly suck at least what Sonic did actually tell me back in the day, especially considering how frustrating that level can be. But it gets worse though until whenever we get to the second half of this mode, of the Tourney mode, which you'll know why until the next couple of weekends up ahead. So, yeah, that might be, I'm not looking forward to that particular point, so...
And also, short things worth knowing for is the fact that I'm pretty sure that Kev King 74, that he's almost finishing up with Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 right now. Although, sure enough though, what's even weird is the fact that he did finish up with Silver Story first, and the next thing you notice is the fact that he's probably going to be moving on to Shadow Story next, so... Kinda strange, kind of think about it. And then he probably is going to save the Sonic story for last, before he dives right into the forms of the last story segment, so... Bit strange, I know, but either way though, that's usually as far as I'm aware. There's more likely like a reverse version of that certain order of those different character stories respectively, so... I honestly have no words to able to think about it, so... Anyways, let's grab this Yoshi's Egg as a basketball and distract that paratrooper while getting squished and stop that, Bowser! Can you see why I hate this stage so much? But thankfully, if we move on to the last Tourney Cup, that it won't be nearly as frustrating as this particular tourney does. Yeah, just because of how chaotic it was. But at least thankfully though, unlike in Daisy Garden, that basically though, scoring a basket is actually self-explanatory, except with a lot of luck-based traps that you have to go through. And it's not that fun to me though anyway though, but that's the only reason why that we somehow almost barely touched this game, and we haven't exactly touched this game for donkey's years because of this godforsaken stage. I can possibly understand of how that's going to be represented with that stuff, so... But at least we score another basket, so that's something, alright? And one thing I've found is a little bit weird is the fact that, well, relatively speaking, do you remember the forms have been Donkey Kong 64, right? That Dixie Kong, she's not a part of the forms of the playable cast in Donkey Kong 64. Yeah, I know that, especially I'm presuming that, well, Maxi has already pointed things out during the forms of in the, you know, Donkey Kong 64 Let's Play, so... And it seems pretty cool that we're actually going to be, you know, tackling through certain games based off from, like, monkeys, apes, or gorillas, essentially. So, well, except for that one time about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, we were originally going to be able to go back into Super Monkey Ball of all things, because the last time we actually done this Super Monkey Ball Let's Play was actually a redo Let's Play of Super Monkey Ball 1, and that's about it, basically, because we haven't exactly gone into, Banana Mania yet, or especially noticeable the game on the N-Gage, because we haven't exactly 100% everything in the N-Gage game yet, but we will promise you we will get around to that at some point. We don't know when exactly for sure, but we'll just see what happens during the majority of 2023 for sure. Oh, and the last thing I wanted to mention is the fact that, it's been better late than ever to able to mention about this, that, unfortunately though, we have to delete the, one of those Piglet's Big Game Let's Plays, because we figure we can able to do that redo Let's Play at some point. Yeah, especially considering how the fact that Piglet's Big Movie is getting its 20th anniversary at some point during 2 months' time, so might be a perfect opportunity that we can able to do all that. But there we go, Star Tourney is now finally completed, and there goes our gold trophy once again. So in some cases though, although we're not exactly done with this particular cup just yet though, until specifically later, so don't get your hopes up just yet. So anyway, so now we've actually unlocked Bowser as a playable character, but also we've somehow unlocked Merkle somehow, and finally with the forms of another type of basketball we can use. But either way though, something tells me about that Mogul character, I wonder. Well, I suppose I should probably mention more about it until specifically next Saturday, because either way though, we've almost low on time. So in some cases though, yeah, let's go ahead and quickly change the ball style here. So yeah, I think we should probably end things off at this point right here. So join us
next weekend for more of Let's Play of Mario Slam Basketball or Mario Hoops 3-on-3 is the fact that we're going to be moving on to the 4th and the final tourney in the game, at least specifically on the first half of the forms of tourney mode. That's what appears to be Rainbow Tourney. So I'll see you guys until next Saturday. Later, dudes.